to Spiritwind. As you remember, Spiritwind is a study group for spiritual adventurers. We study all different types of religions, different topics having to do with philosophy, women's issues, men's issues, and it all kind of circles back to spirituality. And so we'd like to, again, take you on a journey with us to what we have been discussing for the month of November and introduce you to what we will be discussing in December. And with us today is our guru and author, Rick Reich. And so we'll listen to him and see what we were talking about. Rick, can you tell us what our topic was for last month?
Yes, our topic was Native American spirituality, but we didn't look at just that. We also looked at their history and history of our relationships with the Native people here, and as well as their traditions and things. Today, however, I wanted to start just with on a personal note, just my relations with Native people since I was a child. When I was a young child, my grandparents lived either in Arizona or New Mexico, and I grew up going to powwows at various pueblos. When I think of the Pueblo Indians, I think of Taos, and where when I was a little kid, there was a Chief Jerry there we used to visit. I remember the stories of the Kachina dolls of the Hopis and the sand paintings of the Navajos, which were actually healing paintings. And as a matter of fact, the Navajos are the largest federally recognized tribe in the United States, with some 300,460 enrolled tribal members. Mm-hmm. And I visited their reservations many times, especially in the Four Corners areas, and my favorite being Monument Valley. And any of you that have read the Mysteries of Tony Hillerman, they're all set in the Four Corners area. I remember reading books like The Sacred Clowns, The Shapeshifter, and Skinwalkers. And then as a child, I was also, because of that, I was enrolled in what was called the Indian Guides, which was kind of a different takeoff on what Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts were doing, but that's how we did it. Now looking back, I can see it was just white people trying to co-opt Native culture. And then in my doctoral studies, I studied with a Native American Seneca elder named Jose Habde. And in addition to teaching us Native practices and beliefs and even their cosmology, she taught us how to dance and drum like natives and not like white people. But anyway.
So did your grandparents have any Native American heritage?
No, they just lived in close to Native American reservations and things. And so it just seemed normal to me because that's what we always
did that all the time. Yeah. Oh, well,
yeah.
That's really interesting. Well, can you tell us where the Native Americans originally came from? Do we know exactly?
Well, what I was taught in school, and probably a lot of our viewers was that the Native Americans descended from northeastern Asia across the Bering Straits, the land bridge between Siberia and Alaska, and they usually put that some 12,000 years ago, making them descendants of the Ice Age hunters. Mm. But there are other theories going around today, and most of those theories put the time period of where they came to our country, well, to their country,
Yeah.
I should say,
Yeah.
was between 16 to 17,000
Oh,
years ago. So a lot earlier than we had previously believed. Just on an interesting note, the Mormons had their own origin story in the Book of Mormon, where they called one of the tribes that was here the Lamanites, which were descendants of Jews who had come over. And they were descendants of Israelites who had traveled to the New World. The Mormons claim around 600 before the Common Era. But they've since dropped that, at least officially, due to problems with DNA testing.
oh,
Show that that's not the
so
case.
Joseph Smith wasn't a descendant of Jewish heritage.
No.
Oh.
Anyway, also looking back at their history, one of the earliest examples we have is the prehistoric Anastazis. Anastazis were ancestors of the Pueblo Indians. They inhabited the Four Corners region from about 200 to 1300, the Common Era. That's a long time ago.
And for a long period of time.
And a long period of time, right.
Right.
And you can see the cliff dwellings and all these different places where early the prehistory Native Americans were. And it's pretty amazing to see those places. And then I just, only one thing on a sad note, I think last month I went into quite a detail of kind of the negative things we've done. But historians say that what happened with the Native Americans in our country was a genocide that rivals Nazi Germany and Stalin's Russia and these other times, because it tells us that between 1492, our first contact, and then the 19th century, the end of the 1800s, 90 to 95% of the native people were gone, as well as their land.
And that's in the millions of
Yes,
people.
Millions.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that was not good.
No, that's not good.
This.
Well, in talking a lot about the Native traditions and so forth, I think I've heard the term two-spirit. Can you tell us what that means?
Well, I think this is an interesting topic, especially in what's changes that have happened in our own society in the last maybe 50 years or less. Two-spirit means that's what they called now, but in the past they were referred to by anthropologists as Berdachis.
Berdachis, okay.
Yeah. And Berdachis just comes from a French word meaning homosexual.
Oh, okay.
So that's why they're called two spirits. They're like
okay.
male and female both, in
Okay.
a way. A good example of that is if any of you have seen the movie called The Little Big Man with Dustin Hoffman. There is a two-spirit man in the movie, and it's a good example of that anyway. However, 11 of the Native American tribes, including the two largest tribes, the Navajo and the Cherokee, prohibit gay marriage. But two spirits are embraced by the tribes of the Plains, Great Lake region, and some in the southwest in California. And then just for your note, there are 562 federally recognized Indian tribes.
Oh my goodness.
And I bet they're glad they got our recognition. And there's probably some of the tribes out there that aren't recognized, but they believe they are just as much as anyone else. But,
So I guess you have to be recognized in order to have a casino. Huh?
yeah, I guess.
Well, I guess they just let the two-spirit people live and let live then.
Right.
And they actually recognize them as having that inclination and just go on
And
their life.
accept them, that's how they are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, how about what do Native people think about God? Do they have a God, so to
Yeah.
speak?
Well, first of all, when you speak about Native people, there's not just one kind.
Oh,
There's all
that's true.
different tribes. So.
Yeah, 560.
But there are some common beliefs, and I would say their belief in God as what we call the Great Spirit is a belief that's common to most native tribes, and more than that, the lack of an opposite to the Great Spirit.
Also, no devil.
No devil.
Oh, okay.
They don't believe in like Satan or the devil or anything like that, and yet they're what they believe in as tricksters, like Coyote, or another one you think of as Coco Pele, the kind of hunchback flute player. They're tricksters that play tricks on people.
Well, you told us earlier that you learned different spiritual practices from your Native teachers
Right.
and so forth, and your Seneca elder teacher. So can you share a few of those practices?
Well, first of all, I think most Native American traditions hold that everything that the Creator made, whether it's animate or inanimate, is filled with spirit. It's filled with spirit, and they often refer to the spirit as medicine.
So the rock medicine and the tree medicine.
Or the rock spirit and the tree spirit and the mountain spirit and water spirit, or whatever.
Right. Okay.
That is a view that in theology is referred to as animism. But they don't have it, unlike us, we have a separation between our secular life and our spiritual life. You go to church on Sunday or Saturday or whatever, and you get all holy that time, and then the rest of the week, you don't really even think of it. But in Native life, the secular and the spiritual, the ordinary life and the spiritual life are virtually indistinguishable. Everything is a part of one whole. And anyway, that's all I'd say about that.
Oh, okay. Well, how about some of their ceremonies?
Well, they have a tradition. The Native people have this tradition of the buffalo calf woman that came to them, the white buffalo calf woman. We would call it mythical, a mythical figure. I don't know how much they see that as a myth or a reality. But anyway, they have the white buffalo calf woman gave them 7 ceremonies. The first is the peace pipe, that I'm sure most people are aware of. The next is the sweat lodge. The next is what's vision quest. And vision quest, they would send out young men or people, and they would be alone in the wilderness in a certain spot. Anyway, and they would stay there and fast until they had their vision of what is their future, what are they going to do with their life, and so forth. And that's very reminiscent of things like Jesus fasting alone in the wilderness, or The Buddha was under the bo tree fasting for 49 days. And Muhammad, before he received the Quran, was meditating and fasting in a cave on the mountain of light, where the angel Gabriel came and brought him the message to proclaim. And even you think of the desert fathers of the early Christian church, people like St. Anthony in the Egyptian desert. The fourth was called the sun dance, and that's where they would pierce the sun dancer his chest would be pierced and he would hang. A good example of that, if you've watched movies, it's quite a while ago, Richard Harris played A Man Called Horse. And in that movie, he does the sun dance, hangs by his chest. Then they have the Uwepi ceremony, or the spirit calling ceremony. And Uwepi actually means they tie him up. And in the ceremony, they would take the holy man and they would tie him up in a blanket, lie him in the center of a darkened room, and then he would go about healing or go about what they did, spirit calling. People that were sick oftentimes were seeing that their spirit had been taken away, and he would journey in to recover their spirits. The sixth one was the making of relatives ceremony, and that is very similar, and I'm sure we got it from Native people. What we used to do, at least I did and my friends, we would be blood brothers.
So cut your finger.
You'd cut your finger and put them together, and supposedly your blood is flowing into each other, and so now you're blood. And then the last one, the seventh one, is the giveaway ceremony, and that's traditionally it's giveaways are 1 year after a person dies, they give away all their things. So they just put all their most precious things on a blanket out, and people are welcome to take what they want.
Well, it seems like we have such a potential, at least, for a very rich Native culture right all around us. We just really have to look for it and embrace it, I guess. So what can you say in closing about this?
I would say, people would say that the Native Americans are in our midst. They live in our country. But it's we who are in their midst and live in their country.
Yeah.
And I think that once we can see this and accept it, we'll be on the way of healing the injustices that we have done to these people.
And I know a lot of organizations open up with a statement recognizing the fact that we are on Native American land that was not given to us, that was taken, and that there still needs to be restitution.
And I'm glad that those kind of things are happening.
Right. It does bring it to light, so that is good. Okay, well, let's go on to what is happening in December at Spiritwind.
Well, in December, we're doing a topic. It's called the Infancy Gospel of Thomas. Now, the Infancy Gospel of Thomas is a non-canonical Christian text, and it describes the childhood of Jesus between the ages, basically birth till he was 12 years old. And those are the missing years to the early Christians as they reflected, because we're told of his birth in the Gospel of Matthew and Luke, and then we don't ever hear anything about him in his childhood until he's 12, when he goes to the Jerusalem and at the time of the Passover, and is left behind talking to the rabbis. So you can imagine people were curious what he was doing as a child during that time, you know. And so it tries to fill in that space, and it does so with miraculous and oftentimes mischievous acts. It was written around the 2nd century, and it's distinct in when you compare it to the Gospels and the character of Jesus, because it portrays Jesus as precocious, temperamental, and occasionally cruel. As a child, struggling with his divine power.
Oh, okay.
Because it's kind of like they were thinking in those days, you know, we have to learn to walk, we have to learn to talk, and they were thinking he had to learn how to use his divine powers. And so as a child, he was using those powers in ways that he wouldn't when he was grown up.
Right, experimenting kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is even one of the stories that's told in there is the story where Jesus makes clay birds come to life. And it's interesting because it's also in the Quran.
Oh.
And hundreds of years apart. So it's interesting.
Well, are there any other books that mention this? Any other historical background?
No, just those two, the Quran and the Infancy Gospel of Thomas.
Okay, and is that all that this gospel is really focusing on? Is that period in Jesus' life?
That's all.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so anyway.
Okay, so who is Thomas?
Okay.
Do we even know who this person is?
The writers of many of these, this was not a Gnostic gospel, but it was found later, you know, and it's actually one of the earliest because this was found, well, not found, but it was written, they figure it was written between 150 and 185 of the Common Era. Now, the Gospel of John is seen to be written about 90, and the book of Revelation, if you believe John wrote that, about 100 AD. And so 150 is one of the earliest books that we have after the Gospels. So that, I don't know, that makes it kind of important.
Still, it's 100 years of oral
tradition.
Stories being passed down.
Yeah. And Thomas, there is a Gospel of Thomas, and that was a Gnostic gospel, but this is said it's the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, probably not even written by the same guy, probably not written by the Thomas in the Bible, the doubting Thomas.
Oh.
But the interesting thing is, I think, and this is what I think of when I think of this book, Thomas in those original languages literally meant twin.
Oh.
And it so this kind of seems like it's Jesus' evil twin when you see what he does and stuff.
Huh. Well, how does this book portray Jesus? Tell us a little more details.
Well, it portrays him as with divine power, and he performs miracles such as bringing things to life from the dead and healing the sick, things that Jesus did. It also portrays him, however, with a volatile temperament. It depicts him as mischievous, angry, sometimes cruel, even killing children who upset him.
What? Okay. Yeah. Did he bring him back to life?
No, he did raise some from the dead, even.
Oh,
you know?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but that's a very different Jesus than we're used to.
Yeah.
And
well, this must be really hard on his family.
Yeah. So yeah, and there's strain between Jesus and his parents. Mary and Joseph are often confused and troubled by what he's doing, and Jesus is even often in conflict with his teacher, whom he either embarrasses or kills out of anger. And this reminds me of an attitude like my father had. My father wasn't a great believer, but he listened to religious stuff all the time, and he said, man, if Jesus had all those powers when he was on the cross and they were mocking him, why didn't he say, zap, your arm just melted off, or something like that. But I think that's what happens when you put superpowers with anger. That's what you get.
Well, you mentioned the Quran. Are there any other specifics that you can bring to us on that?
No, just it says in the Quran, chapter 5, they call it a surah. Surah is the chapter, and verses 1 through 110 through 111 says, I, God, instructed you in the book and in the wisdom, in the Torah and in the gospel, how by my leave you fashioned from clay the likeness of a bird and breathed into it, by my leave it became a living bird.
Well, how do you think Muhammad would know this story?
It just seems crazy because we're talking hundreds of years later.
Like 700, kind of, right? Is that when the Quran was written?
And then even longer when you think they weren't even discovered, and these stories were not even discovered till 1945. So
how did Muhammad?
How did he know? If we didn't even discover them.
Right.
Well, I believe it's because as a worker, Muhammad and his wife Khadija, who was 15 years older than he, owned a caravan company, which would have been like a trucking company in those days. And you heard a lot of stories of people. And someone could come along and say, I read the story of Jesus in the temple talking to the rabbis, and someone else would say, oh yeah, I heard about the time he was talking to the rabbis and they disagreed, and so he killed them. That's the kind of thing.
Right. But obviously these stories were passed down and repeated over and over.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you'd like to tell us about what we're going to be discussing in December?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's about it. But we do something special every Christmas time.
Right.
Earlier last year we did the Gospel of James, which was the Infancy Gospel of James, where it was the birth of Jesus. We've done things on all the different holidays during December, different religions and so forth. And it's all because Spiritwind is about giving people an opportunity to learn from all different religions so that instead of ignorance, we have understanding.
Yes, and I appreciate that. And I know a lot of other people do. And so I invite all of you to come and join us to discuss these topics and more at our Spiritwind discussions, which are every Wednesday at 5:30 at Unity of Auburn. Come and be a part of this group. You'll enjoy it. Thank you, and thank you again, Rick.
Thank you.